Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Jams and Tea podcast, where we spin the jams and spill the tea. And today, we're going to do some copious fucking tea spilling, because this is the moment you've all been waiting for. 365, not quite 365 full days, don't get pedantic on me, but 300 and something days in the making. We have finally gotten to the point in the year where we are doing our best and worst songs and albums lists. We already talked about some underappreciated albums. We already talked about some movies, but you've already seen that, and you've seen the title of the video. And today we're kicking it off with the worst fucking songs of 2021. And we have an entire litany, a year's worth of podcast back catalog shit to draw from, and even some shit that we didn't even talk about. So it'll be a bit of a surprise, but we have so much material because we've been going all year. Let's fucking do it.
You know, fun, not to totally cut the energy of what you just said in half, but it's actually been,
I'm gonna do that.
Surprise, a pretty good year for music. And I don't know if we can approach these worst lists with maybe the same level of venom as we were able to summon last year. But that said, I've no doubt that we'll discover in the process of doing this, we'll rediscover just how much music we did hate this year. And some of our choices may even be controversial. I would think maybe more so on the albums list. I mean, if any of you like these songs, then I would seriously suggest seeking psychological assistance, or at least writing in the comments section, preferably the latter.
Give us an essay, man. Go for it.
But anyway, what we've done, as we did last year, for all of these music lists, is that we have each written our own individual lists, and then we've compiled them so that the most common sort of songs and albums that overlap are the ones that we discussed today, as well as some that only featured on one person's list, but featured particularly highly, so they get a particular shout out here from that person. Also, just worth saying, we've been putting out a lot of content lately. I'm not going to rehash all of it. You can see it on our page. It's been a really exciting time for the channel, just in terms of expanding and like doing new stuff and folding in new people more frequently. But it is worth saying, this is the first time in a while, I think, that all four of us have been doing a video together. So I don't know. I've missed this. It's good to be back.
Oh yeah.
I've been really looking forward to doing this. So let's not dilly-dally any longer, and let's kick us off with number 10 on our list of the worst songs of the year.
This is my least favorite song of the year. And yes, of course, if anybody was going to make history for the Jams and Tea podcast, making it on not just one end of the year worst list, but two in a row, keep up that streak, Joe. We have a cover of The God That Failed. And if you're familiar with our back catalog, you will know that each member of this podcast, we all reviewed Metallica's discography. None of us here are particularly huge fans of the Black Album, which is kind of why this entire project was a bit more of a curiosity than anything else. But I took it upon myself to listen to the artists that I thought would be most interesting contributing to these covers of the Black Album ones. But one of my favorite songs on that record is, in fact, The God That Failed, primarily because it combines the hardest edge that can be found on that record's sound with some really, really heartfelt, emotional lyrics from James recounting the slow death of his mother to cancer, who refused treatment to said cancer because of her faith. And it obviously tore its way inside of James, and he made a song about it. So naturally, obviously, the logical thing to do when you get to contribute to an entire project like this is to take this incredibly sincere, incredibly heartbreaking song, and you make it a fucking joke. Look, there's not a lot of things that contribute this to being the worst song of the year, in my opinion. It's just one thing, and that one thing is Joe Talbot. We've gone on and on about Idols. We've gone on and on about Ultramono, and on about fucking the fucking him in general, despite the fact that he's made good music in the past. And I don't think anybody here will dispute that, at least, that there's, stuff worth listening to. But his mere presence on this destroys this song. It destroys it on a musical level because it just sounds so fucking goofy. I mean, like, he is just doing his Idol's delivery of being like, I'm Joe Talbot, you got it failed. And
the thing about it as well is like he's done tender, emotional, like heartfelt before.
June is a great fucking song. It's not that far away from this in tone. He knew what to do. That's the most reserved song on that album. He knew how to rein it in tonally. And it's not like the lyrics are subtle or anything. It's the fucking Black Album. And not to mention the fact that the rest of the song's instrumentation is garish and blunt and ugly and just doesn't fucking sound very good. But I can forgive all of that shit. But this just comes along and lumbers in like an awkward, drunk British man into a bar where he's going to accost everyone. That's basically what it's like listening to this song. But it's also the drunk man leaves the bar and then urinates on the grave of a loved one. Like, I hope the royalties were good, Lars. I hope you got a big fat paycheck, because Jesus Christ, what a fucking turd.
It's funny because the next song on this list is my least favorite song of the year, and it's also a lot like a drunk British man stumbling out of a bar and pissing on a loved one's grave, except that loved one is John Prine. She's my baby. I'm never gonna let you go. I can't tell if it's ironic or not, or if it's a joke. And like, I can't tell which is worse, if it is or if it isn't.
Damned if you do, damned
like,
if you don't scenario.
Because I mean, if this isn't ironic and this is their best take at this,
well,
stop.
And the thing about it, though, like I even went and revisited the original John Prine song. Like the thing about it is that this song is hilarious. Like it's a very tongue-in-cheek song. Like, I mean, you read the lyrics, like she don't like her eggs all runny. She thinks crossing her legs is funny. She looks down her nose at money. She gets it on like the Easter bunny. Like there's lots of ridiculous lyrics in this song. Like she thinks all my jokes are corny. Convict movies make her horny. She likes ketchup on her scrambled eggs. She swears like a sailor when she shaves her legs. Like it's a beautiful song because there's a tender heart to it, in the sense that it's about these people who don't conform to any kind of like image or idea of like beauty or a conventional relationship, in whatever way you want to project onto it. But it's deeply emotionally thoughtful and like meaningful and earned, while at the same time like poking fun at the characters and poking fun at himself essentially as well. Like it manages to do all of these things. Like it's a really unconventional love song. And what sucks about the Viagra Boys cover is that it makes that all so two-dimensional. Like it takes away so much of that, you know, the nuance and the comedy of that original, and just makes it into a ironic kind of like piss take sort of song about, oh, we're also trashy, white trashy bullshit. Like I know that it's meant lovingly because there's a dedication to John in the music video for it, but it completely misreads the tone of the original song, I think. And that's what really guts it for me. You've got to cover something like John Prine, especially a song like this. You need to understand where he's coming from, and you need to be able to channel that. And it feels like so much of what makes the original so charming and so funny, especially if you watch him play it live, is the chemistry between him and his singing partner on the song as well, Iris Dement. A chemistry which, incidentally, is fucking non-existent on this cover version between the singer of Viagra Boys and the female guest vocalist on this song. Like they're both just doing a fucking bit, essentially. And there's no sense of like
and
them together.
The bit is that they suck. Like it's just a terrible performance, for as best as I can tell, for the sake of being terrible. For lols, I like, it's embarrassing, and the man is not even cold yet. Like fucking get out of here.
That's a theme this year, is that like there are multiple entries on this list and our albums list that are very much there because like it is like obvious that the artist like didn't give a shit. So the most often heard defense of these things I hear is just them being like, oh, well, they didn't fucking mean it. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, but I've lived 24 years on this earth, and I am tired of people making excuses for bullshit. If bullshit is bullshit, don't call it anything else. I'm not here to entertain the notion otherwise.
It's like, oh, they didn't mean it. And like, you see how that makes that worse, right? You
Yeah,
like, you understand.
that's worse, right? You know that's worse.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I mean, that album, that Viagra Boys record, like the whole thing about it was that a lot of it was kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of pastiche of various forms of kind of like American sort of Southern music and contorted. And they're a Scandinavian band, for fuck's sake. They're provocateurs through and through. And I admittedly have a little bit
The
more
only
patience
thing
with that kind of
Swedish
than Morgan.
people should make is meatballs.
Yeah. So let's move into our number 8 song now, which is August's least favorite song of the year. And I look forward to hearing August talk about this because I haven't heard August talk about this yet.
Here we go.
And let's
Don't know what this is at all.
Let's just focus on this song because we'll have a little bit.
No,
we'll have
I
more
know.
To talk about contextually at a later date with regard to this artist. But the song is.
I don't mean to make you cry, but I think that I might have to make you one day.
You Want a Baby is Hobo Johnson's rant against the idea of having a child in the present state of the world set against a very minimal, thin guitar passages in the background. And that's just kind of the description of what this song on its face is. What I find so infuriating about this song, without even getting into the rest of the album, is so his whole thesis here is this idea of having a child is self-defeating because everything sucks and the world's fucked. And it's this nihilistic kind of view of the world in which he asserts that this kind of action is pointless. And what I find so infuriating about this song is just that it's such a shallow, underwritten argument against this point
Sounds
that he's
like
making.
Middle school solipsism.
Oh, absolutely. It's the song that has zero sense of introspection, because if we look into the song, well, you can question why even make a song about people not having children if it's so pointless, because wouldn't then the act of making the song be pointless? Wouldn't then the act of making an album be pointless? Wouldn't be the act of then feeding yourself be pointless? Like, it's such a shallow, uninteresting, simple idea, and it is the problems of the album boiled into a singular point, which is why I picked it.
I mean, what really gets me about this, and I wouldn't even put it in the bottom half of the rankings of the songs on this album, but we'll get into that in the next video. The thing that gets me about this, though, it's prototypical of Hobo Johnson's sort of Hobo Johnson's like raging narcissism, as much as he would like to present himself as thoughtful and caring of other people, which he tries to do. He's weirdly caught between trying to endear himself by showing empathy and like trying to be this like, tortured like songwriter who only cares about himself, who hurts the people around him, all this sort of thing. Like, his artistic persona is a fucking dog shit diarrhea bowl. And the song is like a textbook example of his narcissism, because it's about reckoning with his partner's desire to have a baby. And every sentiment he expresses in this song is solely about how that her desire to have that is negatively impacting him psychologically. It's all about how he's struggling to process this relationship because she wants that. It's all about how like she's foolish for wanting that because his genes will fuck up the child anyway and he'll be a shitty father, and so she's a fool.
Certainly agree about that.
It's like the thesis of the song is essentially, you're a fool for wanting to have a kid with me.
Exactly.
And it's so like it's very
Sam Huntian is what you're doing.
I mean, this is the fucking drinking too much of 2021, to be honest. And just the fact that it's this 2-minute kind of like it almost like sounds like a ukulele almost. I don't know if it's a ukulele or a guitar. It's just this really shitty little stripped back ballad. And it's
Macklemore John Lennon.
Yeah. Number 7 on our list of the worst songs of the year is my pick for my least favorite song of the year. And the song is by Coldplay, and it's called People of the Pride.
Already time on that. Get rid of it. Scrap this.
I was spoiled for choice in terms of picking a song for this list from Coldplay's new album. And there are some stinkers on this record. There's some of the most genuinely unlistenable music that's ever been made by a band that once made good music, in my opinion. And I'm not like,
what?
I know. It's kind of a cliche at this point to say, Coldplay bad, but like, it's not even the whole album.
They can always get worse.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even their worst album.
And they said bet.
But anyway, People of the Pride. Let me set the fucking scene for you here. I mean, okay. So look, we haven't really gotten into it yet, but across these 2 worst videos, we're going to talk about a considerable amount of music that fits the template of like booming, fucking overproduced plastic loud guitar riff and anthemic singing about fucking society in some form. We have music that's represented on our worst lists that is like leaning into the darker aspects of humanity and then the sadness inside through this style. And we have music like this, which is made to lift the people up, to bring the people together. In the words of Chris Martin at the start of the song, people on the left, people on the right, got a lion inside. They're people of the pride.
Not Coldplay's We Are the World. Anything but that.
There's a crocodile, cross-eyed. There's a turning of the tide. We're no longer going to fight.
I'm sorry, go back. There's a what?
There's a crocodile cross-eyed. There's a turning of... I mean, this is it. It's
crocodile's just sitting there like, I didn't ask to be...
The song vacillates between the most cheaply fucking hard-on-sleeve sentiment and total word salad. There's a crocodile cross-eyed. There's a turning of the tide. We're no longer going to fight for some old crocodile's crimes. There's a sewing up of rags into revolution flags. Got to stand up to be counted. Be an anthem for your times. This is what Coldplay is offering us in 2021. These are the kind of sentiments that Coldplay is offering the broken world that we live in. A world where,
man.
You know,
that really makes you think, you know.
It really makes you think about our society. And
like, did the man who invented college go to college?
And look, I've seen people get mad at Taylor Swift for that line and You Need to Calm Down, where she was like, shade doesn't make anybody less gay. And people were like hopping on her saying, oh, she's, you know, queer baiting and she's using, you know, making a concession to queer people in order to be cooler and be more accepted. And I think, admittedly, as bad as that song is, that's a pretty cynical read of what Taylor's trying to do there. But if you want to see that, in action, look at the subtext of this fucking song. Look at this, the cheap allusions to flags, to revolution, to pride, to people, what people have got on the inside, to the oppressors and all this kind of shit. See Coldplay do their same love, which is what this is subtextually. Don't get me wrong. I mean, maybe it's a fucking mercy that it stays subtextual, but then there's a certain sense to which it becomes more offensive because of how blank it is. And I mean, I've barely even referenced the way this song sounds. I mean, Jake, you've heard this as well, I believe.
I mean, diet Queens of the Stone Age ass guitar tones and the cheapest sounding horns you've heard in your life kick this thing off, make it sound like it's in line with that whole space aesthetic and be like, wah, wah. It's like I've seen it's 2001: A Space Odyssey. Thank you, Chris Martin. And then it's just they have come in to sound as loud and garish as possible, and they just sound like royal blood. It's just what the song sounds like. What were you thinking?
This is simultaneously the worst royal blood song of 2021 and the worst Imagine Dragons song at the same time. And we, believe me, have plenty more to say on both of those bands in entries to come. But anyway, number 6 on our list of the worst
Things
songs.
sound like shit.
He wants a breadwinner, he wants your dinner.
Regrettably, I was not here to discuss Star-Crossed when you all did, which is a shame because I've tuned into that discussion multiple times this year just because it's a wonderful bit of riffing from the four of you. And I have to definitely dedicate my pick of Breadwinner here to Saoirse, because it was her observation of the one line which perfectly encapsulated this song and album, which is the "He wants a breadwinner, he wants your dinner," which is, look, there have been a lot of bad lyrics this year, but if I can think of one that maybe is the most antithetical to its point, I think this might actually take the cake. I mean, it has all the problems that this album is already caked in the fact that the production sounds thin and minimal in its best moments, and Casey's voice is like auto-tuned just enough so that you notice, even though she has a voice good enough to not be auto-tuned, so it's like so slick and plastic and gross, which is not the first time I'm going to be saying that on here, because there's so many songs of the year that just, they sound plastic. They're just made out of stuff. And there's just the sentiment at the heart of Breadwinner, which is just like, it's this two-dimensional, lazy characterization of not only her partner in this particular song and narrative and album, but of herself, which is you got to give me some kind of dimension to work here with Casey. And she just doesn't let you in with anything. It's just shallow platitude upon platitude, and it's insufferable. The hooks are bad. What the fuck was she thinking about anything here? But it's this just epitomizes the lack of ability to hold oneself accountable. Not even that she needs to do that. I'm just saying that with her intention in this album to showcase the degradation of a relationship, to paint a portrait, she does everyone involved a disservice, including the people who mixed her album.
Yeah,
I simply don't understand how this was allowed.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into Star-Crossed a bit more in the next video, but the thing about Breadwinner for me is, I mean, you're right, it's completely emblematic of a lot of things that suck about most of this album. The minimalism of it, it has the chance to be kind of like, can just sort of have the simplicity that kind of gets under your skin and stuff, but it ends up having the same sort of effect as some of the weaker songs on Lord's album this year, where it just has no real presence and feels so thin despite its minimal elements and how kind of much money went poured into them, that it feels like an absolute shrug. And I think when I think about this song, I think of what you said in our Adele review, Jake. Gee, Casey, did you girl boss too close to the fucking sun on this one? I don't want to come across like I had no sympathy for Casey or whatever. And we went into this when we reviewed Car Crash.
We reviewed Car Crash.
We reviewed Star fucking Struck, whatever it is.
There's a Star Incorporated.
There's definitely a place for songs that are about partners who leech off of you, partners who make their own insecurities your problem.
A great vehicle for which being the genre of country music, which this is not.
There's totally a place for that. And again, the problem with the song is it's not country. The problem with its song is not that it's about that. I don't want anyone who's watching to misconstrue us as being like, well, Casey simply should have been a good wife and given her husband dinner and all that sort of. It's not what we're saying.
Casey simply should have been a good writer.
Yeah.
Gandhi.
Yeah. And Breadwinner smacks of all of the lack of effort that every song on the record smacks with, but it's added with generous helpings as well of this kind of cartoonish and really facile version of Casey that, I mean, even in the music video, she doesn't look like she's having a good time singing the song, and she's with her girls, and it's all about, about we don't need no man. And it's like, you're not fucking Shania Twain. You're not fucking Kesha, you're not these fucking great singers who can do this kind of song with the proper fucking gusto that it needs. You're not fucking Pink or even or Gwen Stefani even. I mean, they're just B tier compared to those other ones. Like, if you're going to do a song like this, you need to make us feel the venom, right? And you just sound uninterested. And that's the real problem. Okay, so now we hit the top 5 worst songs of the year, and we start to get a little bit more consistency in our agreement here.
Oh, Christ.
Everybody got a mic, chasing all they can to get another like.
I mean, I'm going to, but do I need to say anything else? It's Limp Bizkit's Snacky Poo. I mean, Snacky Poo is particularly notable because it is everything that is so terrible about this band, all in one song, one concise package. It's like 25 years worth of fucking garbage.
Snacky Poo is unique in that it presents an idea, like it tries to do the kind of thing where it's like, we're Limp Bizkit and we're going to do a really, really fucking dumb song. We're going to call it Snacky Poo. We're going to make fucking shitty sounds, and we're going to, and it's like, I prepared myself for that. I prepared myself for, Limp Bizkit goofs off and makes shit jokes and stuff. And that, they don't even give you that. It's just another fucking song about like haters, man. And I'm wiping up the fucking rap game, bro. Your style is a pancake.
Oh my fucking God. Holy shit.
And you should pay it for us because your audience is crickets. Like, oh!
This song's whole ethos of this fan-hating bullshit is not even a recent development in Fred's artistic trajectory. This has been an idea he has been ruminating on since at least 2019 with his film The Fanatic, a masterpiece starring John Travolta. And we're seeing the front of this, and it's just gotten less and less comprehensible.
End of Fred Durst.
I'm so pleased that you've invoked The Fanatic, which I had the glory of forgetting existed. I don't even think it came up when we reviewed the album, but yeah, that pretty much shows you where Fred Durst's kind of creative instincts are at. There's something weird about, in 2021, hearing Fred Durst say things like, I don't need your Insta, and I don't need another motherfucker trying to give me a like. There's something so weird and like, what's the word for like when anachronous? It's something so weird and anachronous about hearing Fred Durst talk about like 2010s, 2020s era internet culture. It's like, you don't belong here, old man. You belong in the late 90s and early 2000s. You should be fucking rapping about
garbage.
You should be rapping about AOL and LimeWire. You shouldn't be rapping about fucking Instagram. Like that's one thing I think that makes the song kind of emblematic of how sort of lost and vague and just tragic of a proposition Limp Bizkit in 2021 is that they can't even modify themselves to feel like they even remotely fit in, and it's their third best album.
Enough is enough. I can't take this BS any longer.
What this has got to stop is it's a flaccid guitar-driven COVID-19 dog whistle of Eric Clapton very passively complaining about government lockdowns and really just the geopolitical state of the world following the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. What's so entertaining about this song is that the guitar is so thin here, you can barely, like, there's no muscle to it, there's no sense of urgency. And Eric Clapton feels like he's singing this song from the lazy boy recliner in the middle of his sofa in the middle of his mansion without a care in the world. It raises the question of what is so enraging. Like, you really don't get a sense of why I mean, you know why he's mad, because we're all familiar with the real world, what he's talking about. This isn't some subtle trick where he's pulling the wool over the eyes of the libtards. He's not getting away with this. Like, everyone knows what you're talking about, but he insists on delivering it in this dodgy, vague way where he might as well be talking about the fact that I don't know, his wife is sleeping on the couch because he, I don't know, gave some other woman AIDS or whatever. Yeah, this song is very bad.
The thing about it is, like, you talk about the problems with how Eric expresses his fury and what the way he kind of dog whistles and what the song's really about. He doesn't even sound upset. Is the thing.
No,
like,
he doesn't.
Like, he has no.
Gotta stop.
He's such a fucking old, withered fucking potato of a human being at this point that he can't even summon the energy to sound genuinely pissed off when he's doing this protest song about fucking getting vaccinated or whatever it's about. Like, get a grip, Eric. This is the thing. It's like with the fucking Limp Bizkit thing, where I had an expectation based on what I heard about the song and the title of the song. I'm gonna get something that's really fucking juicy and like it's really going to be like a fucking catastrophe of a song. And what I get is this limp-dicked, soft folk, just withering song that has the most hilarious excuse for a guitar solo you will ever hear in your life. I'm genuinely serious here. This is, and what's significant about that? Yeah, a lot of bad music with a lot of bad guitar solos. Eric Clapton, voted the second greatest guitarist of all time by Rolling Stone, I believe. Say what you will.
Fucking morons.
It's very easy to clown on Eric Clapton, and it's totally unoriginal to do that because everyone does it nowadays, and fairly so. Like, he's one of the most overrated musicians in Western music of the last 50 years. Which is not to say he doesn't have musical achievements. I mean, the solo on While My Guitar Gently Weeps will always stand for itself, Eric, and you can stop taking that to the bank. The thing is, I don't even have a thing. It's just so bad, dude. It's just so shitty. It's so shitty and lame and pathetic and whiny. And it has this music video where it's like he's ripping off the imagery of Pink Floyd's The Wall to sort of make the statement about how the liberals are trying to vaccinate your children.
No vaccination.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's I have an inkling as to why it's delivered this way, and my inkling says that it's because it doesn't affect him at all.
No.
Like
he's not actually mad. That's the worst part.
He's just so completely out of the line of fire of any of this. So it's so clearly just like, oh, I guess the screaming fuckwits about fucking lockdown shit need a song, so I guess I can fill that void.
Well, yeah, and like the thing about his like vocal performance being so withering as well, like, he's an old fucking man at this point, right? He doesn't need to keep doing this. He's coming out, he's making the choice to come out here and do this, but like, he sounds so fucking zapped. Like, he's got nothing in the tank. It's I mean, it's like, you want to make comparisons to like folk legends and the sounds of like sort of classic sort of 70s folk music. I mean, it sounds like Eric is trying his best to put energy into his singing performance, but he has COVID himself, so he's barely able to fucking get a breath out. Like, he sounds so tired, and it's like, regardless of your politics, regardless of your position, you can't disagree. You can't dispute the fact that expressing this viewpoint in such a withered and pathetic and totally like lacking any kind of gravitas way, that doesn't do anything other than hurt the standpoint that you're representing or whatever. Like, it only serves to be an easy point of ridicule. And to a certain extent, like, that's one of the reasons why I was hesitant to put it so high on my list, was that it's like, it's such an easy target, but also at the same time, like, there has to be consequences.
That's what the mask is.
That's what the point of the mask is.
Speaking of pathetic,
Oh yeah.
let's move on to
Let's
I
fucking
have-
go.
I just want to say at the outset, I have not even. I'm looking at the document, and this is the first that I have ever heard of whatever the hell this is.
that's
Sorry,
fine.
yeah.
That's fine.
I'm so
I think
sorry.
Yeah.
Not an inkling of an idea of what the hell this is.
we've got enough fire in our pussies to absolutely
no.
carry this.
put
Don't
that
you
out.
worry.
Yes.
Should get some Vagisil.
So number 3 on our list is the song Mask by the YouTuber and Twitch streamer Minecraft God to Zoomers everywhere, Dream. Now it seems to be almost like a rite of passage at this point that online celebrities, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitch, whatever kind of format it is, doing let's plays or doing like hashtag content, at some point try to start a music career. We saw it with KSI the other year. We see it with lots of these figures all the time. At some point, they decide to kind of really leap into the musical realm. And especially
Logic just reverse engineered that.
yeah, he did. And the thing about Dream, who incidentally is a person that I, aside from their brief blurb on the fucking Wikipedia thing that came up when I typed in their name, I know nothing about. This is not,
Sucks.
this is some other world. This is a foreign planet to me, the world of Minecraft and whatever. But the thing is, a lot of these artists bank on is the fact that a lot of them are too big to fail. A lot of them, no matter what they do, they can put whatever out and it will generate traction. It will generate their attention. It will find an audience of people who love it. And so that breeds a ground for a lot of these content creators to make the most low effort shit. I mean, I think really we have to blame Jake Paul for this. I don't know if he was the first to really do it in a big way, but certainly he feels like the kind of godfather to this whole sort of movement of like content creators becoming musicians. And, say what you will about It's Everyday, Bro. At least that song's funny. At least you can laugh at that song.
England is in fact my city.
Dream song Mask. Okay, so when I first heard about this, and I don't fucking know, like, I thought this was going to be like a fucking protest song about the fucking pandemic and having to wear a mask and all that kind of shit.
Oh no, it's worse.
You
And
fool.
It's somehow worse than that because we've got fucking Eric Clapton for that. Thank you, Eric. Next. This is an entirely different thing, and this taps into a trend in popular music that we're going to talk about more and more and more, and I think will definitely flavor some of the significant picks on our worst albums list as well, which is the introspective pop star, the introspective, inward looking, content creator who takes his fucking check to the bank off of the back of kids who are struggling with depression or who are having a hard time at school or having a hard time just existing. And I'm not saying that he is necessarily, fleecing and abusing these kids. I mean, I could see a case for that. I'm sure this song has genuinely helped some fucking 8-year-olds out there. I'm sure it has. I mean, that's the fucking target audience, right? It is... It's hard to view it as anything other than a cynical ploy to appeal to young children. And that, again, inherently, fine. You want to make music for a young audience, fine. But you're doing this by appealing to, like, the...
Dumb fucking children.
It's not about appealing to children. It's about appealing to children by monetizing their generational sadness. And that sounds strange to say when I'm talking about...
Just imagining some 8-year-old in the Simpsons meme, like, not today, old friend.
I mean, it's fucking... This is the suicide hotline song for the 2020s, except Logic, for as bad as he is a technically gifted rapper. As I think maybe the worst thing about this isn't even the context under which it was released or the lyrical content or the way it could be manipulating people. It's just that this motherfucker can't sing or write lyrics that sound good. That's what the point of the mask is. 18 layers of auto-tune.
I can't stop eating all my cat's jizz.
Is that an
Shane
actual
Dawson
lyric
be
in the
like-
song?
Yes, that's real.
No, so okay. So here we have
No, the fuck it is not.
songwriting extraordinaire Dream talking about, really with the poetic image of a generation. Sometimes I do be wearing a smile, and sometimes I don't be feeling the smile. Sometimes deep down I put on a happy face. As this is Joker core music, is exactly what it is. Like
Joker for 9-year-olds.
It's Joker. Well, I said 8-year-olds. I should be really accurate. This is music for 12-year-olds, and it's specifically honing in to target a faction of the audience that he's built up from his Minecraft content, right? Really zoning in and making the song that targets the experience of sadness specifically through the lens of people within this narrow age. This is not a song that will appeal to 16, 17, 18-year-olds. It's specifically a song for younger kids than that. And it's a song that really trivializes and really kind of reduces and paints, not even depression, but just sadness in this very, very kind of cartoonish lens. And it's so full of platitudes. That all said, there's this hilarious moment in the song where his vocal delivery, obviously his voice is so unbearable. His tone is completely off. He has absolutely no sense of key or pitch or moderation or anything. He can't sing in the first place. But there's this moment in the second verse where he's like, "Yeah, I'm okay, bitch." It's just the most.
I didn't
What?
ask.
We're swearing now. It's like in the Coldplay song "People of the Pride," where he's where Chris Martin just drops an F-bomb for no reason in that song. just to be edgy or whatever. And it's so fucking weird.
That's what you needed in your song about suicidal depression. Edginess.
Oh wait, and you know what we need to talk about?
What?
We need to talk about the music video.
Oh,
The infamous music video for this song, which
How did I miss any of you talking about this?
You just knew when to just completely tune out, Morgan. You knew the right times.
Yeah.
This music video looks like burnt plastic is the best way to describe it.
It looks like a TF2 source film animated project from 2010 that you would find on YouTube that people animated with the Valve engine. It looks horrendous.
So
and those were usually had a comedic jokey tone to them.
It was funny. It was supposed to be bad.
Yeah, those were supposed to be bad, and this is real. This is something that exists in our world.
So the thing is, the mask, the mask in the music video. I get that it's supposed to it's supposed to show a fake smile, a smile that's obviously put on, that doesn't have any kind of real,
fucking
gravitas.
Ditto the Pokemon ass face.
But it looks fucking terrifying. There's something about it that's deeply, deeply discomforting and unsettling.
It is supposed to be Dream's YouTube icon.
Yeah,
Right.
it's the
Okay.
smile. It's
I
the
didn't know.
smiley face serial killer thing.
That's it.
Just
That's
what it looks
That's
like.
what I was trying to think of. It is.
Yeah.
It's the fucking creepy pasta face. And
The
whether it's his
fucking Jeff
icon,
the Killer.
whether it's his logo or not, I don't know. But it the creepiness of it completely undermines any emotionality the music video might have, and that is a nice little kind of way of encapsulating the way that the song itself shoots itself in the foot, right? There's just nothing substantive there. There's nothing you can even just switch your brain off and feel the sadness when you listen to the song. You can't even get that because it's just completely buffed out of it altogether. It's a fucking garage band demo next.
My favorite thing about this song is that it so perfectly evokes a time period in my life. You said it was aimed at 12-year-olds, Tyler, and we talked about how it reminds us of creepypastas. I listened to this song and I feel like I'm in 2012. Like, it takes me right back to that year, and I'm just like, wow, I fucking hate this. Please, God, make it stop.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna ask this particular demographic of people for their worst music of the year. I mean, this is genetically engineered for us to hate it, but it also objectively sucks.
Yes.
And doesn't sound finished. And speaking of which, on the topic of songs that aren't finished, on the topic of songs that are kind of offensive, in fact, I would say that these next two songs are particularly offensive, and I think that's a big part of why they're on this list. But the next song, number 2 on our worst songs of the year list. So, kind of the punching bag of Donda, which is hilarious because that's an album that, whether you like it or not, has a lot of punching bags on it. And doubly hilarious that this is the big punching bag of the album as well, because it's such a nothing interlude of a song. But as I'm sure August will get into, because August is the one introing this song, it's not just the fact that it's a tossed off interlude that is why it sucks. There's layers to why this is such a significantly terrible piece of music. An abhorrent piece of music, I would say. And August, I'll throw over to you to get us started on this.
Now, the layers of hell this song descends through are namely, so Kanye West's sin on this song is speaking ill of the dead. If I may put it in a poetic way, namely that the problem here is he's taken a Pop Smoke song and he has recorded it off of his phone and put that on his album. And I mean, that in and of itself, if you have no context, you're just to any of what's happening in the world. If you've been living under a rock, this may not seem so bad to you, but of course, Pop Smoke has tragically died at a rather young age, and now we've got this unfinished, weird, just it's an all-around questionable choice why this is on the album, especially punctuated by the fact that Kanye West is a fucking rich man. He has the money, he has the time, he has the talent for this not to be part of his final product. And it shouldn't be. This should not exist, is the thing. Television should not be something we exist in the same universe as, because it is such a bafflingly strange, borderline offensive decision on his part to incorporate this half-formed work from another artist on your own work and then present it under your own name.
It serves pretty neatly as an encapsulation of all that's kind of like wrong with Donda. This notion of like anything goes. This notion of like throwing the kitchen sink in with it. This notion of like, I guess, giving you an insight into Kanye's fucking tortured artistic process or whatever. There's multiple songs on Donda that do pay tribute to deceased heroes of Kanye. My favorite song on that record is 24, which is a song that is a tribute to Kobe Bryant. It's beautifully rendered. It's very well done. It's lyrically quite moving, if simplistic. Television is a complete inverse in terms of execution and in terms of just about everything that you would want to consider when you think about what makes a good sort of just piece of music, what makes a good sort of tribute to a lost, to a fallen brother or to a fallen, member of a community or a fallen artist. Not only do you have this like obviously really, really cheaply sampled, Pop Smoke throwaway as well. Like that's the thing, like he samples a refrain, we made it. And he loops that over and over and over and over again. He doesn't really build on it in any way, except to add the worst weird instrumentation, percussive loop shit you have ever heard in your life. And you do have to, like, and I know you'll probably feel like I'm giving Kanye too much credit here, but I do genuinely think Kanye is an artist who does everything he does with purpose. I believe that everything he decides to do, he sits down, he considers through his warped brain and does and executes what is his vision. He tells us his vision. And the biggest bullet hole you could possibly shoot into that theory of mine is this song, because it doesn't make sense on any level. What's even more baffling is that when Kanye did the deluxe edition of this album, where he bumped it from fucking 100 minutes to 130, he still left it in on the album. No modifications, nothing. I mean, this is Kanye, the life of Pablo West,
and
who's
that,
fixed songs in real time after they've been released many times, and yet he evidently sees this as some vision that, you know, represents Pop Smoke.
This song is his vision. You cannot say the label tampered with this. You cannot put this at the feet of anyone but Kanye West himself.
I wonder what Mike Dean said when Kanye gave this to him. Like when Kanye was trying to put this something out, because Mike Dean, a big deal has been made of this throughout the year, right? Mixed and produced this album under a great deal of duress, alongside a huge team of people that Kanye employed to, you know, finesse the music of this record. And you do have to wonder, like, what happened here, whether this was like the final straw in some way for someone who's responsible for mastering and mixing Kanye's music, whether Kanye genuinely thought, you know, yes, I should have it sound this way, whether it was, you know, just an attempt to evade like a sample clearance issue or something like that. I think actually, now that I'm talking about it, I remember reading somewhere that there was like a label dispute where someone didn't want Kanye to put this on their album because they wanted it for the posthumous Pop Smoke record, but I think it ended up on both. I don't know. I haven't heard the posthumous Pop Smoke record. I've heard very negative things about that as well. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have this creation that's deservingly stoked a lot of ire from Kanye fans and just general people encountering this record, and sits as this just bizarre black mark that few of us really know what to make sense of, how to make sense of it, or what even to do with it, other than to just fucking gawp at the just sheer fucking balls that takes to call this a tribute in any way.
Speaking of misguided.
What the fuck is going on?
Humpty Dumpty went Humpty Dumpty went Humpty Dumpty. Eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge.
You are my Monday, you're the best day of.
Bad habits lead to late nights, sitting alone.
I'm too sexy for this syrup, too sexy for your.
I am out of ordinary.
Grab some bites, but don't go tell your mama 'cause she won't sleep.
Well, I can't say that I didn't see this coming, because I did. Provably, it's documented that it is. Number one is, of course, I knew that it was going to be my least favorite song of the year. I said as much. And really, it's funny just because I didn't hate that song half as much as I do now. It, like, again, and even the entirety of Future Bites, which I was tripping over myself to find good things about, because I wanted to give this album the fairest chance possible, because it soured itself so early on, and because obviously the four of us are four of the biggest fans of this man on the planet. The most successful videos we've made this year are covering albums that this man has made. I own all of them on vinyl right here. There's nobody who had a better excuse to give this song and this album a pass than the four of us. And it's the only song on here that was voted by each of us on our lists. And honestly, it's fucking boring. This is a 10-minute long song. Steven is no stranger to 10-minute long songs. Hell, the best songs the man has ever made, Anesthetize, Arriving Somewhere But Not Here, well eclipse 10 minutes. There should be no reason for this dude to fumble this. Easy shit. And yet, it is the most minimal, plodding, didactic, tacky, plastic sounding song of the year. I would almost prefer this to abandon Steven's production sensibilities entirely and for this to be a tire fire like television where it's recorded through an iPhone and it sounds like dog shit. Because I mean, there's something there. There is something there. Instead, this is impenetrable. This just goes on and on and on. It has like 3 distinct movements where it's got the buildup in the first half that's kind of sinister and eerie, and it starts out with just immediately, if you don't know if this song is going to be insufferable, the first fucking lyrics are have now, pay in another life. It's just the most online fucking internet screen bad shit you've ever heard. Fucking kickstart the future, accept this loan, all of these fucking phrases and shit. And there is nothing wrong, nothing with trying to take your music and try to critique capitalism. The problem is that he doesn't critique capitalism. He fucking critiques the people who are unwillingly participating in it. He's never done anything like this before. And now, in the year of our Lord 2021 or 2020, when this album was supposed to actually come out, but
it is worth noting also that this song actually did release in 2020.
Oh, yes.
Like, shit, it might have been 2019.
No, it was the very end of 2019. It was the first single, I think, released for this album.
So,
and
interesting detail, I'll just add here before, and I'll let you continue. It actually released on the 12th of March last year. And
okay.
So I think that is a long time ago, but I also think that we didn't really have the time to fully appreciate how much this sucked because it got so buried by the rest of 2020 and everything that happened like instantly
March
on release
of that year.
So and I know there are probably people out here going, well, it's not a 2021 song, so why isn't it on the list? Well, we encountered it and had the time to process it this year, and I think that it's as fair as any to include it here. Just as a disclaimer, like it. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of
the fucking songs that were on After Hours by The Weeknd were released a year before that album came out, and they're not songs from that year. They're songs that were released, the album was released. So, disclaimer aside, Steven Wilson is not the most successful musician on planet Earth. But you know what he is that he's well off. He has a family, he has a nice house, he has a dog. You can look on Instagram, plain as day, self-evident. And this man has the balls, the fucking nerve to come on and do this 10-minute long diatribe about why phone bad, about why screen bad, about why Jeff Bezos bad, except no. We can't even say Jeff Bezos bad. It's you're bad for ordering things online. You're bad for having to participate in the thing that you are being fed like a trough. You have been borrowing from music that has been critiquing these things smartly your entire career. Roger Waters did this on the wall in the 70s, and he did it with the exact trajectory that someone like that should. You can be annoying, you can be pompous, you can be narcissistic, and you can still all make those things work. You just have to direct it at the right people. But this song is aimed at you, the listener. You, the person who is just fucking sitting here listening to music, and there's nothing worse than that. There's nothing more condescending to that. And then you get fucking Elton John, who I wonder how much that feature cost you, Steven, to come on here and go, sunglasses, ash soap,
happiness.
What are you doing? Why did you think it's just like when you write something like this, how do you not stop yourself? You're a 50-year-old man. You have the sense in your head. I know you wrote lines like my Xbox is a god to me, but I gave you the benefit of the doubt and you're trying to make me doubt you. You have disappointed me in ways I did not think were possible. And if Porcupine Tree wasn't reuniting and the single that you released with them did not come out and was not good, that would have marred your reputation permanently for me. And still, I'm a little skeptical because how can I not be? How do you do that? How do you mess up a perfect winning streak like that? You're allowed a miss when you're Steven Wilson. I said this in the previous episode where we covered this album. You're allowed a miss. But this is your miss? This is the most insulting, long, boring, shitty sounding thing I've heard all year. And I'm glad that we can cap off the year by fucking burying it.
In many ways, it feels to me when I listen to this, it feels like what Steven's doing. I mean, and this is something that's engineered to make us all shrivel up like dicks in the fucking Russian cold, is that he's trying to do a bit where it's like a satirization where it's so blunt and so like in your face and so like cavernously, loudly just saturated that, you know, it's all about kind of like bombarding the listener's face with, you know, these kind of like postmodern renderings of slogans and products and phrases and all those that kind of shit to make his point. It is the opposite of subtlety. It is the opposite of nuance. Admittedly, Steven's not exactly an artist who we think of and enjoy for things like subtlety and nuance. Like we love the bombastic and beautiful and emotional and powerful shit that he does because he does that so well. But it feels like he's attuned all of his skills here to approximate something which is essentially the same thing as playing every Black Mirror episode synchronously. It is just a fundamental mistake of music. And we can say all this with love because we do love Steven and we do cherish him and his music. And we know that he's capable of better than this. And yet it feels like a punishment. And yeah, and that's the worst thing that you can do as an artist to the people that you, to the fans that you love. And it's not because he made a fucking, you know, new wave goth 10-minute pop dance song instead of mer prog opus. It's not because he did that. It's because he made such a fucking car crash of it. I would love a new romantic synthwave Steven Wilson album, especially with his production acumen. I would love to hear him do something like that and really throw his whole ass into it and make like a full-on fucking prog synth record. Or not even prog, like just make a synth pop album. I think he could do it. But he can't do it
Undoubtedly.
So long as his preoccupations are so single-minded and rendered in such a two-dimensional way, because he's trying to project a message that is multifaceted, that does make a societal commentary. And if you're going to do that sort of thing, you need to appreciate the depths and nuances and three-dimensionality of that social issue that you're trying to, you know, deal with. You can't render it in this two-dimensional flaccid way, or you completely miss all the nuance of it. And it seems as though what you're trying to do is create something that is nuanced, that appreciates and criticizes and lambasts a huge social issue, cultural issue. And so your whole approach from the get-go is flawed. And we can talk about it a little bit more when we talk about this album in our worst albums of the year video. But that, I think, is all relevant to Personal Shopper specifically anyway. The album is not solely Personal Shopper and does do other things, but here is kind of
Doesn't
where
help that it's 25% of it.
Yeah, exactly. Here is kind of where Steven's worst impulses at this particular juncture of his career are centralized. And yeah, it's you know, it's a real shame. It didn't have to be like this. Killer Whales. Let us know at home What do you think of the songs we discussed in this list? Do you think we were unnecessarily harsh on anything? Let us know. Do you think we should have gone even angrier on certain things? Are you surprised that certain songs didn't make our list? What would be on your list of the worst songs of 2021? Let us know in the
Recommend
comments
us
below.
terrible music.
Our worst albums of the year list will be up in 2 days' time on Tuesday, so stick around for that. And then we'll be able to put all this shit behind us and start talking about the music we really, really love this year after that. But that's for another day.
As always, everyone, rock over London, rock on Chicago, Halfords, we go the extra mile.